It's May 25, 1982, and two formations of Argentinian fighter jets thunder just above the waves of the Falkland Islands, heading toward what could easily be a one-way mission. Leading the charge is Captain Pablo Carballo, piloting an aging A-4 Skyhawk, a jet that's seen better days and carries only basic equipment, yet it's now armed with live bombs. Their objective: take down the British warships HMS Coventry and HMS Broadsword, the Argentinians, who have seized control of the Falklands, or Malvinas, as they call them. Know that destroying these ships is essential if they want to keep their hold on the islands. They've learned that two British vessels have advanced closer to shore to provide cover for the ground forces and opening the Argentine pilots plan to exploit by flying beneath radar detection, entering radar zone, no climbing. Under any circumstances, comes the firm command. The Skyhawks skim dangerously low, tracing the rugged outline of the islands as they slip silently into enemy radar range. Both British warships are armed with cutting-edge radar systems and advanced anti-air missiles, weapons that have already proven deadly against Argentinian aircraft. The only way for the incoming pilots to survive is to fly as close to the ground as possible, aboard HMS Coventry. Captain David Hartdyke keeps his crew on full alert. Reports from British Special Forces have warned him that Argentinian jets have taken off for a strike, though he doesn't yet realize that his own ship is the intended target. Moments later, 4 blips appear on the radar, confirming his worst fears. For contacts, bearing 225, range 30. Hartdyke wastes no time and orders his men to battle stations. Sirens echo through both vessels as the Sea Dart surface-to-air missiles swivel into position, ready to fire. Meanwhile, the Skyhawks draw nearer to Pebble Island, flying so low that they seem to trace its rocky surface. Isla de Bourbon ahead. Stay low and follow my lead, Carballo commands over the radio. Through precise and daring flying, the Argentinian pilots manage to slip completely beneath British radar coverage. And aboard HMS Coventry, the radar screen suddenly goes blank. Contacts lost over Pebble Island. Comes the report, exactly the scenario Captain Hartdyke had been dreading. Pebble Island lies far too close. The Sea Dart missiles have a minimum engagement range, meaning they might only get one chance to fire if that. Hartdyke quickly radios HMS Broadsword for an update. Broadsword, report your status. The Broadsword, however, carries Seawolf missiles, weapons designed for shorter-range combat, ideal for a close encounter like this. Meanwhile, Captain Carballo leads his formation as low and close as possible, using the terrain as natural cover. His Skyhawks are flying blind, no radar, no warning systems, but as they close to 10 nautical miles, the British ships finally come into view, initiating the attack. Good luck, Captain. His wingman, Lieutenant Carlos Rink, replies. Both men push their throttles forward, accelerating to full speed. Skimming so low over the sea that their jets nearly kiss the waves, Captain Hartdyke's tough call on board HMS Coventry. Radar operators suddenly detect movement. The two Skyhawks have appeared. 2 enemy aircraft, bearing 192, low altitude. Someone shouts. Amid the tension, a British Harrier jet radios in it's entering the same airspace. Captain, friendly aircraft, 20 miles out. Now, British and Argentinian planes are both in the firing zone. Should he risk shooting? In a split-second judgment, Captain Hartdyke makes his choice. Turn the Harrier away, launch missiles. But the system refuses to cooperate. The Sea Darts can't lock on. The Argentinian jets are flying incredibly low, almost skimming the ocean's surface. Carballo's canopy is streaked with sea spray and salt. As his jet cuts through the mist, flying so close to the water that radar tracking becomes useless. On the Coventry, every crewman watches anxiously as the enemy aircraft draw nearer. their Sea Dart missiles still struggling to acquire a target. Hartdike feels the weight of his decision if this fails. He's depending entirely on Broadsword's Seawolf missiles. Aboard HMS Broadsword, the crew spots the incoming Skyhawks with their own eyes. The Seawolf radar detects the attackers, but they're flying so tightly together that the system reads them as a single target. They manage to lock on until suddenly the radar splits the contact into two. The conflicting coordinates cause the missile guidance system to crash. Missiles not responding. Restart them now. But there's no time left. On Coventry's deck, lookouts spot the approaching jets with their bare eyes, shouting warnings as the enemy rushes in. Fire across the deck in a final desperate move. The guns aboard HMS Coventry swing toward the incoming jets and open fire. Soon, the thunder of machine guns and rifles joins in, sailors all over the deck firing whatever they can to defend their ship. Captain Carbelo watches as shells explode around him, throwing up tall splashes of seawater. And the tracer rounds streak closer with every second as the British gunners adjust their aim. The enemy destroyer is right in front of him. Victory feels within reach, but the barrage is closing in fast, too fast. He realizes they won't make it through this run. Switch to the other one, he commands, changing their focus to HMS Broadsword. Both Skyhawks veer sharply to the side, racing past Coventry's deck, narrowly dodging her fire, and lining up for their new attack run. Then both pilots press their triggers, releasing their 1,000-pound bombs. The bombs plunge into the sea, striking the surface and bouncing upward, skipping across the waves like stones across water. On Broadsword, the crew watches in horror as two massive bombs skip twice, drawing closer each time. One bomb splashes short and sinks harmlessly beneath the waves. But the second doesn't miss. It slams directly into Broadsword's hull, tearing through the ship's side. The bomb ricochets upward, tearing through Broadsword's deck and then tumbles into the sea without detonating. Carbelo can't hide his frustration, but the mission isn't over yet. Trailing behind him is the second wave, led by First Lieutenant Mariano Angel Velasco and Ensign Jorge Nelson Barrio Nuevo. Their Skyhawks carry smaller 250-kilogram bombs, less powerful than Carbelo's, but far more dependable. On the British side, radar operators now detect 4 incoming contacts. Sensing the danger, Captain Hartdike commands an immediate turn to starboard, giving his Sea Dart missiles a clear shot at every target. Target locked fire. Comes the call. A blinding flash lights up Coventry's deck, followed by a roar of smoke and flame as the missile blasts into the sky. But Velasco and Barrio Nuevo dive even lower, flying just above the waves until they vanish from radar. The Sea Dart loses its lock and streaks away into open air, missing completely. Aboard the Coventry, sailors watch in disbelief as the missile drifts off course, powerless to stop what's coming. From his cockpit, Velasco sees the missile pass harmlessly, 500 meters to his right, but his attention never leaves his real target, HMS Coventry. Meanwhile, on HMS Broadsword, the crew scrambles to reboot their missile system, their eyes fixed on blank radar screens as the Skyhawks bear down on them. Every second feels like a race, the jets versus the restarting computers. Come on. Come on. A sailor mutters, eyes glued to the console. The radar screens flicker back to life, and the Broadsword's crew immediately jumps into action. The Skyhawks reappear on the Seawolf radar, and within moments, the launchers swivel to acquire the targets. A lock is achieved, but suddenly, chaos strikes. On the monitors, the sailors see HMS Coventry sail directly across their line of fire. Damn it! Coventry's blocking the shot. In their haste to cover all directions, the only active missile system is now useless. The Broadsword's captain tries desperately to turn the ship for a clear launch. But it's already too late. Meanwhile, Velasco and Barrionuevo are racing in, lining up for their attack run. Aboard HMS Coventry, Captain Hartdike gives the order. All turrets, open fire. The ship erupts in noise as cannons, machine guns, and rifles unleash everything they have at the oncoming jets. The main 4.5-inch gun fires relentlessly. Shells crashing into the waves, but the crew quickly realizes the gun sights are misaligned. At the same time, disaster strikes again. The 20mm anti-air gun jams. Frantic sailors fight to clear the jam, while others fire their personal rifles in a desperate effort to defend the ship. But it's no use. Brace, brace. Brace echoes over the intercom. Crew members hit the deck, clutching whatever they can as the Skyhawks close in. From his cockpit, Velasco watches the massive British destroyer fill his view. He squeezes the trigger, his 20mm cannons roar to life, raking Coventry's deck and superstructure with streams of fire. He keeps firing until the last second, then releases his bombs. The payload arcs gracefully through the air and slams into HMS Coventry, punching through the hull with 2 deafening metallic thuds, but no explosions follow. Above Barrionuevo's jet screams past. His bomb release mechanism fails, leaving the payload stuck. Seconds tick by. On board Coventry, sailors cautiously rise, fear and disbelief on their faces. A voice begins reporting damage over the intercom, but never finishes. Then it happens. 2 massive explosions tear through HMS Coventry, shaking the entire ship. Flames and smoke erupt from her sides. The destroyer has been fatally hit. Cheers echo across the radios of the Argentinian pilots. Woo! Boom! We got them. Goal. Long live the nation. One of the blasts tears open the bridge area, ripping a huge hole in the hull and obliterating the computer room. Fire races through the corridors, engulfing the operations room in seconds. The first explosion had ripped through the operations room, where Captain Hartdike and his crew were working. The second blast detonates deep in the forward engine room, sparking an enormous fire and knocking out all electrical and propulsion systems. When Hartdike regains consciousness, he's surrounded by smoke, flames, and chaos. The air is filled with shouts and screams. It's impossible to tell where they're coming from, echoing through the burning corridors. He struggles to his feet and feels the deck tilting beneath him. The ship is listing, reaching for the intercom. He tries to call for help, but it's completely dead. There's nothing left to do but find a way out. Through the choking smoke, he stumbles down collapsing passageways, hearing the groans of twisting metal as the ship breaks apart beneath him. Finally, he locates an exit hatch and pushes his way out into the cold South Atlantic air. Coventry crew evacuate once on deck. Hartdike's first thought is for his crew, men from smoke-filled compartments. Others are giving first aid, and more are deploying life rafts while helping shipmates into survival suits. But time is running out. The deck begins to tilt sharply, the hull rolling beneath his feet. Disoriented and hurt, he collapses onto the slanting deck as the last of his men abandon ship. Everyone except Captain Hartdike. He remains the final man aboard HMS Coventry. For a moment, he gazes over the wreck of his command, smoke rising into the gray sky. He's done his duty. At last, he climbs into the final life raft and drifts away from his sinking ship, thanks to the professionalism and training of the British sailors. 170 survivors are rescued from the sea by HMS Broadsword and Royal Navy helicopters. Yet, 19 brave men lose their lives in the battle. All 4 Argentinian pilots make it back to base safely, their mission a success, though their triumph would not change the course of the war. For another legendary modern air encounter, check out the story of how MiG-29s ambushed F-15 Eagles over Iraq, a battle that defined air combat for a new era.